thank you all for coming. My name is Mark, and I'm gonna provide a quick little in your backyard home compost workshop today. So thanks for coming, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So basically, what we need for this is very few amount of materials to get started, and the benefits are really gonna outweigh the cost of this whole operation. First of all, we're gonna start with pallets. It's really important to get 3 of them. We're going to eventually create a bay, and it's super simple. You can find pallets anywhere you want around town. Most businesses are pretty able to give them to you, and they're happy to get them off their hands. So right now we're going to make ourselves a little compost bay, perfect size for the backyard gardener. And what we do is we just get 3 pallets and we stand them up, and we tie them together with baling wire, or you can hammer them together with nails as well. So we're gonna do that for a quick sec, and I'll come back to you. All right, so
let's got to a commercial.
Yeah.
I can drink water out of this thing.
Shouldn't just ask. It'd probably be helpful for them to know.
And don't feel necessarily compelled to limit yourselves to using pallets if they're not available. You're also, you can use anything you want. It's gonna end up probably decomposing a little bit in the long run. So I'd say if you're gonna stick with wood, try and stick with something that's untreated. You can get as creative to use stumps. I've stacked stumps up before to enclose the composting enclosure, and it seems to work pretty well. So now that we have our setup, it's actually kind of important where you put it in your garden. I'd say a place that gets a moderate amount of sun, so it doesn't get too cold or too hot. And also it's really nice to put it in a place that doesn't really get in your way for your gardening or landscaping activities. So somewhere out of the way is a pretty ideal location. And so once you have your spot and your pallets set up, we need 4 basic ingredients to get this going. We need carbon, nitrogen, water, and air. So I always start with a load of carbon, and I start to build my pile. The main thing that I think about in creating my pile is a lasagna, and really trying to layer up my small pile to start with. So we'll get in there. We want to get a nice big pile of leaves in there on the bottom, and I'll help out with that.
Actually got some bags of coffee I can give you guys right now.
My pitchfork in.
All right, that's good. That's good. So our first step is carbon. We're going to put that down. Just to give everything a nice little bed to start out with. And let's see what else we got here. Then in continuing with our lasagna style compost, we also want to work with our greens as well. So these are anything that you save from your kitchen. It's really nice to have like a 5-gallon bucket, throw it under your sink, and throw all your food scraps in there. You can use anything really that once had roots, and coffee beans, eggshells, scraps from your garden, yard waste. Grass is also really good as well. I'd dry it out first to start with. So let's pretend this pile right here is garden greens, everything that you got from your green waste. And we'll make a nice little pile in here. I always use, all the experts recommend a 30-to-1 ratio, 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen, and the garden waste is our nitrogen. So I would really say use a lot more carbon than you would have nitrogen. And one of the most important things I would say, especially right now, is fall. The city has a great program to pick up your leaves. So you throw them out on the curb, and they pick them up and take them to their composting facility. But I feel like we're throwing away money when we do that. I would really recommend storing all your leaves and all your neighbors' leaves in your backyard somewhere. So it'd be nice to have a little space for that as well. Last year, for instance, I went around my neighborhood with my yard waste bin, and I picked up all of the leaves that everyone piled really nicely, and I had leaves for the entire year for my composting needs. So fall right now is an incredible time of the year.
What about the bokashi? If we throw that on the green layer, it'll help it break down more quickly?
Yes, definitely. Bokashi will help provide some more microorganisms.
Let's just sprinkle some on there. How about that?
Not a problem.
We're making bokashi, so if anybody's interested, get a little bit. We're happy to share. Okay, thanks, Mark.
All right, and then so we'll keep putting some more green waste in there.
Be careful, there's some...
This is getting really good.
Yeah.
So we've got like our zucchini, squash, eggshells, all that good stuff. You know, again, I feel like I felt with taking our leaves away, I feel it's also that we're losing valuable nutrients when we throw our food scraps into the garbage can and then sending it to the landfill. It's so important to complete that cycle that you know nature has for us. So it's really important to put those nutrients back into either a compost pile and eventually your garden as well. So we've got our first layer of carbon in there, second layer of nitrogen, our leaves and food scraps and yard waste.
Bokashi.
Then we go back and we continue creating that lasagna layer. And what a lot of folks don't realize or can't quite achieve in their backyard compost is the heat that it needs to get to. And in order to get the compost to that desired heat, you need a larger pile. So what really makes the compost work is when you have a pile between 3 and 5 feet tall. All the microorganisms in there, through their decomposition and effectively pooping out all of the nutrients, that creates heat. Some piles that I've worked with have gotten up to between 140 and 170 degrees. And really to kill all of the negative and bad bacteria, pathogens in there, it's really good to keep it up at that desired heat for between 3 and 6 days is the recommendation for that. So you really, so like for a visual, you'd want it to be at least right around this height to get up to that desired heat. And I realize it is tough to start with to get a lot of materials, but as you build your pile up, you're gonna want to turn it as well.
Mark, could you use like lawn clippings for the green? If I didn't have enough kitchen waste to get the pile started or something?
Yeah, definitely. You're able to use lawn clippings. I would say not in too thick of a layer though, as the lawn clippings will mat up and they might create an impermeable layer so that microorganisms won't be able to pass through it.
Oh, thank you.
The lawn clippings are a great addition to the compost.
Well, and you can dry them out and kind of let them do their own thing, and so they actually, if you let them dry out, they work really well. I know not everybody has that kind of space, but you can put it on the side of your house where you do nothing else, and then they actually are really good too because they actually start to decompose.
Yeah, definitely.
So green leaves that aren't dry yet still count as carbon, right? They're not nitrogen.
They would still be considered carbon. And as I'm adding layers to my pile, I will also give it a little bit of water as well, just to give the microorganisms in there something to drink. All life needs water, and so watering the pile is really good. Not too much water though. Too much water and moisture can cause your pile to go anaerobic, and that means decomposition without air. Air, if you don't remember, is the fourth ingredient that we need in our pile creation. So we've got our 3 ingredients already: carbon, nitrogen, and water. Air is one of the most important parts. When we have our piles, and they've been sitting for a few days, you can stick your hand in the pile and you'll be able to feel the heat. In the fall, you'll even see the pile steaming as the microorganisms break down the food scraps and the leaves. And if you have just one pallet bay, you're going to have to end up pulling everything out and then piling it back in. You don't have to worry about making layers again, because what I'm showing you right now is a one batch process. The more you keep adding to stuff, the more you keep adding to your pile in the backyard, it's just going to keep decomposing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking for a finished product of black compost, then you're going to want to just stick with one pile or one batch. And it's really helpful also if you do have the space to create three of these bays right next to each other. And once that first batch has been sitting for about a week, I would say 1 to 2 weeks, I would say bring it from this bay to the next bay, and then you don't even have to pull it out and then put it right back in. And then once this bay is empty, you'll be able to start a new batch as well. So that's just about that part. And like I mentioned before about the soil being too moist, if it's not moist enough, a lot of the organisms in there, they're not going to have enough water to live and continue breaking down all of the organic matter. What you really want is a consistency of a wrung-out sponge. So just picture a wrung-out sponge, and so that's not too much water, but not too little water as well. I think that's...
Well, that's really great. Thanks a lot, Mark. That looks so easy to do, man. Thank you.
And you, one more thing. You know when it's done, when the smell smells like when you're walking through a forest and you move a pile of leaves out of the way and you pick up that dirt, and it smells like just fresh earth in there, and that's how you know when it's done.
Fantastic.
When I'd heard that the more you turn it, the faster you make it. So if you were to turn it like once every week or two, you would make it a lot faster than if you do my style, which is lazy and just leave it in place.
Yeah. The more often you turn it, the more air and the more that you'll be able to move around those microorganisms in there. And but you don't want to turn it too early though. You leave it at the very, very least for 3 days, and that way the microorganisms will be able to get their work done, and then once they do that, then you'll be able to turn it again. So.
When you add it to the other pallet, when it's in that next pallet, are you going to be adding dirt and stuff to it, and that kind of stuff? So now that you're adding more ingredients once it moves on to the next pallet?
You wouldn't want to add more ingredients to this batch.
Right.
When you put it to the next pallet, it'll keep decomposing and it won't be at the same stage.
Okay.
So you want to keep that every batch separate.
Okay.
But if you don't have the space and you're not super concerned about getting a finished product out of it right away, then I would say just keep adding to it, keep turning it. There's no wrong way to compost.
Yay!
Everything decomposes.
Yeah, you really can't screw it up. That's
that's
I
right.
mean, short of the few little principles, but yeah, I've left mine without water and without. Yeah, but if you build it with the amount of the right amount of mixture of stuff, the greens, the carbon, and do add it kind of basically takes care of itself. I mean, if you start it right, you pretty much.
Right.
I mean, you would be hard pressed to screw it up.
Yep.
I'm a lazy gardener. I just throw it there.
Yeah.
There we go. The chickens do turn mine though, so I do have to thank them for their beneficial health.
So Mark, if you're pulling out your tomatoes right now, do you want to do something to them before you toss them in, like run over them with the lawnmower, or should you just pile the plants?
You can do it. If you don't want to use a lawnmower, you can get a spaded shovel and just kind of chop them up. The more surface area that's on the plants, the faster it'll get broken down. Imagine all of the microorganisms have really tiny mouths, so the easier it is for them to go through that organic matter, the faster it'll break down.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. I think we're ready to make compost bins. Thank you.
Thank you.